Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's just dive straight in. Today, we're taking a really profound internal journey. We are going to look closely at a piece of text that is, well, remarkably short, but it has somehow remained completely timeless across centuries. You've definitely heard these words before, sung, spoken, remixed, you name it. But today, we're not just reading lyrics. We're going to analyze this text as a map. Literally, a highly specific structural map of human transformation. I mean, just listen to the sheer unfiltered power of this line. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. It's absolute poetry. And right out of the gate, it sets up this incredibly intense before and after dichotomy. There's absolutely zero gray area here. You're either lost or you're found. You're in the dark or you are in the light. But this brings us to a really fascinating question, and honestly, it's the whole core of our explainer today. What is the actual journey hidden inside these iconic words? Sure, we all know that famous opening hook, but if you look at the full text, it actually outlines a meticulously crafted chronological path. It starts with a single, sudden moment of awakening and takes us all the way to the infinite bounds of eternity. Section 1. The Sound of Transformation. To really understand this path, we have to start at the absolute beginning. The text opens up by describing a sweet sound, but notice how the speaker describes themselves right next to that sound, that saved a wretch like me. Take a second and really let that word sink in. Wretch. That is some incredibly heavy, self-deprecating language, right? It implies someone who is broken, miserable, just entirely undeserving. The contrast here is staggering. You have this beautiful, sweet sound crashing directly into a self-proclaimed wretch. And weighing these absolute opposites against each other perfectly illustrates the radical physical and spiritual change going on here. Think about the past state, lost and blind. It's a total deprivation of direction and sense. And then boom, the present state, found and seeing. This is an immediate, jarring rescue. Actually, it's not even a slow process of finding your way, it's an instant snapping from one reality into a completely new one. If we were going to write a dictionary based entirely on the internal logic of just this first stanza, our definition of grace would look exactly like this. Grace is an active agent. It's not just some abstract, floaty concept. It's a literal sweet sound and a savior of wretches. It is the catalyst that completely flips the switch from blind to seeing. Section 2. The paradox of fear. But the journey doesn't just stop at the rescue. We move away from that initial physical rescue and into this highly complex, deeply internal emotional realization. And it brilliantly illustrates our first major paradox. On one hand, grace taught my heart to fear, but on the other, grace my fears relieved. So think about that for a second. How can the exact same force induce fear and then instantly relieve it? Well, it suggests a sudden awakening to the reality of the situation. Grace reveals the massive danger the speaker was actually in, teaching them this appropriate fear or awe. And then, in that very same breath, it provides the safety that completely relieves that exact fear. It's just a masterful stroke of emotional complexity. And the text pins this massive emotional swing to a highly specific point in time. It says, "How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed." It doesn't say some vague era of their youth. It's an hour, a definitive, pinpointed moment on a clock where belief actually happened, and where this terrifying, comforting grace suddenly became explicitly precious to them. So we've got to expand our working definition of grace now. It is no longer just a rescue operation. Grace is now this totally fascinating dual-role entity. It's an emotional instigator, a teacher of fear, and a profound comforter, a reliever of fear. It's actively managing the speaker's internal psychological state. Section 3. Navigating Dangers and Snares. Now, moving from abstract emotions into a very tangible, gritty, earthly experience, the speaker drops us right into the reality of their ongoing life. They list out what they've actually faced: dangers, toils, and snares. We're not talking about metaphors for spiritual blindness anymore. These are specific, exhausting, earthly challenges. Traps, hard labor, physical threats. But notice the phrasing here. The speaker says, "I have already come through them." There's a very palpable sense of tension, but also this hard-won, battle-tested resilience. They survived. And the crucial point here is how the text brilliantly bridges that present survival of past hardships with an absolute guarantee for the future. Grace has brought me safe thus far. It's literally the vehicle of survival. But then it pivots directly forward. Grace will lead me home. All of that anxiety about the future is completely neutralized by the solid track record of the past. If we trace the speaker's shifting tenses, we can actually map out a clear chronological progression. Step 1, the distant past, where I once was lost. Step 2, that specific defining moment, the hour they first believed. And step 3, the active present, having already come through the snares and arriving safe thus far. The entire text is just relentlessly pulling us forward through time, which means we have to update our earthly definition of grace one last time. It's evolved, hasn't it? It began as a momentary savior, transitioned into an internal emotional teacher, and now it's a lifelong, continuous guide. It is a protector through the physical dangers of life and the ultimate compass pointing straight toward home. Section 4. The Promise of Eternity. Right here, the narrative just dramatically bursts outward. Bam! 10,000. The text suddenly throws this jarring, massive number at us. When we've been there 10,000 years. Mentally, it is a huge leap. We completely escape the boundaries of a single mortal life fighting through earthly toils, and we expand onto a breathtaking cosmic scale. We just went from the hour I first believed to an infinite expanse of time. The earthly timeline we literally just looked at has completely dissolved into eternity. And with that massive leap in time comes a massive leap in imagery. Check out the phrasing, bright shining as the sun. Think about the incredible contrast we've mapped out today. We started with a wretch, totally lost and blind in the dark. Then we had someone stumbling through dangerous traps and snares. And now they are described with this bright, expansive, overwhelming enthusiasm. They are literally radiating light, like a star. But there is a tiny, incredibly significant detail hidden right in the grammar of this final stanza. Notice how the pronouns shift. For the first 3 stanzas, it was entirely singular. Saved a wretch like me, taught my heart, lead me home. It was a deeply isolated individual experience. But in the eternity of the final stanza, it shifts. When we've been there, we've no less stays. The journey expands from the isolated individual finding their way to a unified collective eternity. You're no longer alone. Let's look at our completed timeline to see the full scope of this masterpiece. Step 1 was the lost past. Step 2 was the safe present. Step 3 launches us 10,000 years into eternity. But look at step 4. The text says we have no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Time itself becomes an infinite loop. Even after 10,000 years, you haven't subtracted a single day from infinity. It is just a stunning mathematical and poetic concept. So if we look back at our comprehensive definition, built entirely from the words of the text itself, we can really see the incredible structural journey we've just unpacked. Grace is a sweet sound. It's a savior of the wretched. It's a teacher of fear and a reliever of fear. It's a protector through earthly dangers. And finally, it is an eternal guide into a collective infinity. Which leaves us with this final thought to carry with you today. If 10,000 years is just the beginning, how does this infinite perspective change the way we view our present dangers and toils? When you zoom out to a timeline where 10 millennia doesn't even make a dent, suddenly, the snares and the stresses of today might look a whole lot different. It's an incredibly powerful way to reframe our own daily struggles, using a map drawn hundreds of years ago. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a completely new way to appreciate these timeless words.